Hello, Linda Franklin, and welcome. How are you?
Hi, Jenny. I'm very well, Jenny. Lovely to be here.
And you look in a marvelous creative place right now. I can see paint everywhere. I can see paintings. I can see easels ready for a new canvas. Tell me where you are. What are you up to?
Well, it's my personal crazy space, and there aren't any rules in here, so it's a serious place of work, but it's also a fun place. And my grandchildren come in here. The puppy runs around going nuts and stuff, And actually, I think it's really important for a studio because making art is a very solitary business, and unless you have a certain, well, for me personally anyway, not all artists operate the same way, but for me, I love everybody to leave their energy here, because I think that this quite sterile white wall space, needs it. And when lots of stuff has been going on in here, other people in and out, it's still there when you start to paint, and I like that. And people feel free here. I feel free here. I don't have to tidy up. I don't have to sort things because somebody wants them done in a certain way. It's very liberating. I do tidy up sometimes because I can't find things. A touch of the Francis Bacon, perhaps. We wish.
Eventually, you have to clear the decks at some point.
You do, because you can't find paint and lids don't fit and the sink is clogged up, and
The mind boggles. So your studio is at home, so you've been able to get in there during lockdown, have you?
Yes. Yeah, I have. And I think it has been a saving grace, to have something you can go to and you lose track of time. Equally, I think it's been quite difficult to paint because it's been a very serious time, and art could, especially if you're doing things that I do. Initially, I thought this is too frivolous in a time like this. This is too aesthetically light, and we should be doing something more somber and more in tune. And then I thought, no, actually, people who are going through difficult times want something uplifting, and this is what you do. So do it to the very best of your ability, because this is when it really, really can make a difference. So I had a sort of turnaround, started using black and doing sort of rather somber things, which was exciting and interesting. Then I wiped it all out and thought, just stick with what you can do, girl, and actually do it really, really well this time. So I've been building a little group of paintings that I've had time to develop.
Yes.
We'll go on developing.
Well, it's hard to, particularly with your work, it's hard to be responding to a sort of prescription. Your work is a joyous and almost, gut response to your experience and your inspiration. And I'd like to know a little bit more about that, because you very much sing with colour. That is your voice, that is your song. And tell me, this love affair with colour must have come from an early age, because we've been together for years and it's always been that really strong.
Yeah. Well, I think that I went to boarding school. My parents were abroad, and we lived in the Middle East a lot. So there was always blue seas, going to the souk every day. And I think when you're a child, you're like a sponge and you absorb all that, even though you're not processing it, it's in you. And then later in life, we've always been lucky enough to have the most amazing gardens with rhododendrons, azaleas, hydrangeas, all those fabulous colours against all those greens, and water. We've always had water in our gardens. And actually, as a child, summer holidays at the Mediterranean, my father used to always say, there's nothing like a Mediterranean blue, So I think all that sort of went in. And poetry, I think poetry relies on colour, to the Tennyson, Gerard Manley Hopkins, who talk about nature and exotic places, and all that feeds me. And also I think colour can be expressed in words. Blind people talk about orange like the blast of a horn, brown being the taste of sherry in your mouth. And so you need to bring that out in your painting so people can think, that reminds me of Christmas by the fire, you know, even though it's not a painting of children or people enjoying Christmas by the fire. There's something about the colours that suggest a memory of something. So I think colour is very evocative, the way you use it.
So almost like music, it's a sort of, there's a musicality to it, and that can take you back to a place. In that
yes,
sense.
yes. And different colours have different rhythms, you know, because blue is tranquil. You know, the interior designers will all tell you, you know, look to nature, we can live with a lot of green, you know. And so I do think that when I'm building a painting, and I do call it building because that's how I feel it is, you know, all those things are going on in my mind. And I think tutors that you've had in the past, you know, they're like children at school. Good teachers leave their mark. And when I was at school, I had an art teacher. We weren't really allowed to do art A-level, but she persuaded Sister Kevin to allow me to do art A-level. And she said that, I've never forgotten that she described my works in such a kind way. She said, charm and sensitivity pervade her work. And I've never forgotten that little sentence. So I always try and remember charm, sensitivity are very important. And then we had a great tutor at my foundation called Macarith, who said, look, Linda, just give me mood. You know, whatever, however you draw or anything, give me mood. So charm, sensitivity, mood. And then my daughter, when I was struggling with painting, came to the studio and said, oh, for heaven's sakes, mother, just give it that bit of Linda magic. So magic came in. So I have those as my sort of linchpins. Yeah. Magic, sensitivity, charm, and mood. With all the colour, of course.
That's your recipe, that's your ingredients for your...
Well, it's subconsciously, when I'm struggling, I think back to those things to try and say, does this painting have that? If it doesn't, then you've got to do something about it, you know?
So I know from years of working with you that you're a bit of a perfectionist and that you do build your work, and I'd like you to take us through that a little bit now. You know, you've got your blank canvas, and you've got your thoughts and your ideas. Do you ever sketch? Do you ever do that sort of level, or do you just work in? How does Linda approach it?
Well, I suppose I sketch. You know, like some artists mix their colours on their canvas, which sometimes I do, but mostly I don't. But I suppose I sketch on the canvas. So I'm doing random markings all the time. I'm not trying to actually get it right because I've got this preconceived. So I'm using my canvas as my sketch pad. And then, you know, some people, sculptors and carvers, they have a different approach. You know, some people add on because they're sculpting, and other people are carving, they're taking away. I put it all on, and then I start taking away. So there's a lot of the sketching that's gone on the canvas, and then it gradually gets pared back, and then I start again to see what's left. And, you know, it's you know, taking and giving all the time until the most special things that work together are allowed to live and survive, to make it a cohesive piece. But it's quite nerve-wracking.
Sorry. It's that reduction that's revealing some of the layers that have gone on below, and it's knowing when, though, to keep trying to reduce and knowing when to add on again. That's years of experience, presumably. There's no particular formula in a sense that you can use, is there?
Well, you have to learn to sacrifice some lovely pieces from your work because, you know, if it's not hanging in there with the rest of the guys that are on the canvas, you know, it's not going to work. But I'm a great believer that nothing is ever wasted because everything you paint, you've learned from something. So when you're painting something else, even though you've had to lose a wonderful little, you know, nugget or something that you thought was so special, suddenly something else has happened in the other section of the canvas, and it's much more, it has much more personality as a whole. So that has to go, but it leaves its trace. So it just becomes something else. But, you know, the painting has to, you can't have one strong piece just, you know, shaking the whole canvas up. No matter how beautiful it is, it has to go. And that takes courage. And it, you know, you have to sort of put it behind you. So yeah, it's quite an exciting way to paint, I think. You know, if I didn't find it exciting, I don't think I could put the hours in, really.
Well, I mean, it certainly takes some bravery, but as you're explaining it now, it sounds a bit like the experience of your studio itself. There's people coming in and leaving their energies in some way and then going again, and it's what's sort of left at the end, and what rises up and what's left to be
and that's right. And also there is a quiet energy which is very strong too. So sometimes when I've done a busy or a very brightly coloured painting, you know, I'm spent with that. And I want to do something like Into the Night, which I see you've got behind me, because I just want one colour band with some very soft, subtle, gentle touches of other colours going on in the background. Because one colour can be very strong and very dynamic. So occasionally I have to switch to that because I'm ready to do that. You know, I've got all the other stuff out of my system, and now I want to do something which is quieter, but still has a strong resonance. And will take you somewhere on a journey. That's very important to me, that people can sort of, escapism, I think, especially today, people do want to escape into another land or another exciting, dreamy sort of thing, you know, that they can put their own stamp on.
I think that's right. It does reflect, and I think like on this piece here, there's a sort of lots more colours and obvious energy, whereas this is a very still energy on
yes.
So you do, I suppose, I mean, we've, as I said, we've worked together quite a bit, and I have shown you in various places around the world, you know, New York, Hong Kong, Singapore, London, and you build these collections for me. We generally know, don't we, about a year ahead that we're going to, well, not this year. These have been to New York and back without, but do you work in collections, or is each piece very much a unique response because you want to deliver something, or you're working on it in a unique way, or do you work in a collection?
Well, I've tried to work on 3 paintings at the same time, and I find it difficult. I find it difficult because I get very, once a painting starts to talk to me and have a story. I know that's a very hackneyed expression, but there is a great sort of character to a painting. You know, you are tussling. It's a bit like a naughty puppy, which I've got at the moment, so I sort of feel that. You know, you're trying to train it to bend to your will, and the painting is saying, no, I don't want pink there, it's not right, you know, to do something else here. And then suddenly it starts to come into line and we're in harmony, and that's working. If I then switch and go on to another painting, I've lost the connection with that painting. To go back into it, that sort of kinetic energy, I can't remember what we were talking about painting, you know, I've forgotten what we were saying. You know? So I find that quite difficult, although I have done it. So I think I'm a bit of I can work on smaller pieces, fun, which is sort of sketchy, but I can't go and do another big boy at the same time because, you know, we haven't finished, and I would forget where I was. The energy would change, so the painting then changes again, you know.
So it's an individual dialogue almost with each work, and if that's broken, then you slightly
go off kilter. Yes, yeah. So it is quite intense, and I might be hoovering in the house, and I'm thinking about the painting, and I think I know what I want to do, and I rush in and leave the hoover, and I have to do it then. Otherwise, it's gone, you know? So that's why I have paint over all my clothes, and all those big boxes of nitrolite gloves hardly ever get used.
Well, I mean, the rest of your paintings are completely covered with paint as much as the front.
I know. In the early days, I used to worry about that because I thought it looked so messy, and then somebody said, oh look, we've got 2 paintings for the price of 1. I think it was a you said.
It's the like to authenticate your paintings by the fingerprints on the back.
Yes.
Did you had some formal training?
Yes, I went to Winchester School of Art. I did my foundation at Salisbury College, and I've dipped in and out of art classes and gone back to, refresh my memory about oil painting and things, and over the years. And I came late to doing my degree. I was a mature student in my early 40s. And yeah, I think it was quite nice to do it later in life too. I think you can bring more confidence and a more open mind, and I love doing my degree. I mean, you could indulge yourself in everything you wanted to and explore lots and lots of different things. And in fact, I did faces for a whole year. I call them faces because they weren't portraits, they were full of angst and, and I just loved it. I did a lovely triptych called The Scream, because I was an art student and I could be as gauche as I wanted to be. So yeah, really good for you to enjoy that time when you can paint anything you want without thinking about what you're painting it for. And my light bulb moment was I'm painting to give pleasure. Right. That was something that just set me off on this road. That the greatest pleasure for me, and it's very humbling, is that you can play around on a piece of canvas and somebody loves it enough to put on their wall and live with it. It's not like a piece of jewelry that you can stick in a drawer and occasionally wear it because it's going to be in your face every day, every time you walk into that room. And I think to achieve that, us artists, that somebody actually wants to do that and live with it and love it, is the greatest compliment, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to do occasionally.
It is. We've had a few emails, haven't we, over the years, back from clients that have sent us the pictures of their living room or wherever the painting is.
I know, and it's wonderful. Yeah. I mean, that feedback is wonderful. It makes what it's all about, really. So yeah, it's.
I think you touched there when it was a good thing to go to art school as a mature student, because it is that emotional resonance that comes through your work. And the one thing that does strike me with your work, or more so the people that collect your work, is that as I sell it to people in their 20s as much as I sell it to people in their 60s, and that emotional resonance is the core. You express it through colour. It appeals to that sort of basic human need to feel that, to want to escape, to want to dream. You come in from work and you sit down, and what you get is something very beautiful in front of you, and that's not easy to achieve, especially in colour.
Also, I people tell me that they like the fact that it's non-specific. So because it's not realism, expressionist, it's more expressionist. People don't have to think, oh, that's the Mediterranean, I haven't been there, or this is that, they can put whatever hook they want on it. I mean, a lot of the poetry is something that does help me to paint. And I've mentioned before Tennyson and Gerard Manley Hopkins. If you read their poetry, especially the Lotus Eaters, they go away to that faraway fairy isle, and they, take the lotus leaf, and the purple bee is cradled, and all this lovely stuff, which is magic. And so these magical faraway places, where you can dream and equate with that anything you want. And so that saying that when the painting goes off to somebody and they put it on the wall, they put their own stamp on it, and there are no rules, they can't be judged for, well, I don't really know, whether it's right or wrong. It doesn't have that challenge. You either love it, you either fall in love with it, or you don't,
Yeah.
It either does it for you.
With pictures pick people anyway, generally, but art picks people. It's not usually the other way around, and I think that's never more so true than yours. It's this one, that's definitely, I'd like to just sit down in my favourite armchair and I'm off. I'm on my sailing boat, or I'm off on my...
Yes.
But it is...
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, you talked about sailing. My husband sails, so I'm not a sailor, but I've been sailing with him we've been married such a long time, lots of times. And also, we go to Cornwall a lot now. We have a little cottage there. And I love going out in the evening and looking at the sea. And that painting is very, in particular, about just walking along and the land is just disappearing into the night. Mm-hmm. And the water and the sky are just beginning to merge. Mm-hmm. And there is that wonderful stillness that is loud. That inspires me to come back and do something like that. And funny enough, in lockdown, I did a very moody painting, which of course doesn't exist anymore because I decided it was too moody. This, I hope people can see, has some grace and some light, even though it's all one colour. The painting I did in lockdown was sombre and quite sad, and I don't want to paint that. You know, I want people to be happy when they buy a painting of mine and feel uplifted.
Well,
so
that was exactly the word I was about to use for this one in particular. Although it is darker colours, much darker than, let's say, this one, there's hope in the painting. There's
yes.
hope, and there's that light that's that central, you know, part of the painting. And that's what takes me away. That's what allows me to go into the painting. If you see what I mean. Is there anyone that sort of inspired you over the years, alive or dead, that has changed your perception of what you can be as an artist?
Well, there's Jeni Weinberger.
I won't go into how brutal that is.
Well, no, I think that actually, you know, I used to paint on paper a lot, you know, with enamels and inks when we first got together. And, you know, they were, I think you would agree that they were successful and lots of people loved them. But I did that for a long time. And I think that I couldn't have embraced what I'm doing today had I not had that time of working on that fragile surface, which is paper. You know, you don't get many chances on paper. You know, you really have to get that energy right, the mark right. You know, you can't go over it and over it. And when I had canvas, you know, suddenly I could reinvent the wheel, you know, and I had another chance. You know, I could really push it on because that's the canvas is, you know, allows you to do that. And I think you moved me on and said, how about canvas, Linda? You know, and I thought, yeah, why don't I try doing, you know, something, you know, move on and do that. So that was a turning point. Yeah, other artists. I mean, I think, you know, some people have one artist who is their great sort of influence. And I don't. I think that it's a bit like friends. You have a different friend for different needs. You know, they're all lovely, but you go to this person for that. And I'm like that with artists. So I suppose Jackson Pollock, who I did my dissertation on, I go to him because he was so courageous and had so much self-doubt. You know, his great thing is it a painting? You know, he never really knew whether it was a painting at the end. So I sort of always go back to him for strength to get them stuff. Patrick Heron for colour. And also he started off very linear, and then he went and did his azaleas and his rhododendrons in his garden in a very abstract way. And then he got really quite sort of to do silk scarves and things, you know. He has his colour, the way he uses colour is I find I always go, I've got his book here, funny enough. I always go back and flip through that when I'm not sure. And then there's somebody called Frank Bowling, who's alive today, who he has so many different mediums and glazes, and you know, it's completely abstract. But I love the way he just puts texture. Texture is hugely important, and he layers it on. So I go and dip into him. And then, of course, Richter, you know. I mean, I've got lots of bats here, you know, but Richter with his enormous, you know, so I love to go and look at his work. I mean, I could go on. And Monet, of course. If you want to paint water, and I'm always seeming to come back to, you know, water. there's no better person to look at than Monet. So, but if I had money, I'd buy a Cézanne.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of money, obviously, because he has colour and he has such good structure.
He does.
You know, so you dip in and out. When you're in a problem area, you think, I need to go and look at this artist.
They're good points of reference, and I mean, you have never mimicked any of those artists, but you have, you know, you've obviously absorbed them over the years, and you know, whatever's come out has come out. But Linda, I love talking to you.
It's always a pleasure.
We always talk too long, so I'm going to wrap it up for now. But
all right.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for taking the time today.
Well, thank you for having me, and I've enjoyed it enormously. Thanks, Jenny.
Take care. Bye bye for now.
Bye. Bye bye.